HOA banned loud vehicles, so I fired up my armored tank and drove it to their meeting. Have you ever wondered what happens when a neighborhood tyrant pushes too far, only to be met with a response so audacious it shakes the very ground they stand on? In the manicured lawns of Willow Creek, a gated community where every blade of grass seemed to bow to the HOA's iron rule, Karen Whitmore reigned supreme. As the self-appointed queen of the Homeowners Association, she wielded her gavel like a scepter, her decrees absolute. Her latest edict? A ban on excessively loud vehicles. A rule so vague it could mean anything from a revving motorcycle to a particularly spirited minivan. The neighborhood groaned under her scrutiny, but no one dared challenge her until Jake Ramsey, a retired mechanic with a penchant for history and a garage full of surprises, decided enough was enough. Jake wasn't your typical rebel. A quiet man in his 50s, he spent his days tinkering with vintage machines, his pride and joy being a fully restored M4 Sherman tank, a relic from World War II he'd lovingly nicknamed Thunder. He'd bought it at an auction in Europe, spending nearly $400,000 to bring it home, not to flaunt it but to honor the past. Parked in his garage, Thunder was his sanctuary, a hulking testament to resilience. But when Karen's new rule landed in his mailbox, citing his occasional test runs as a nuisance, Jake's blood boiled. The rule wasn't just about noisy, it was personal. Karen had been gunning for him ever since he'd refused to paint his mailbox the HOA-approved shade of taupe. The truth was, Jake's tank wasn't a daily driver. He fired it up maybe once a month, the deep rumble echoing for a minute or two as he checked the engine. It was loud, sure, but no louder than the leaf blowers Karen's landscapers used at dawn. The neighborhood's real issue wasn't noisy, it was Karen's power trip. She'd find a nurse for parking her pickup truck in her own driveway, claiming it was too commercial. She'd sent violation notices to a family for their kids' bicycles cluttering the sidewalk. And now, she'd set her sights on Jake, her letter dripping with condescension. Your military vehicle disrupts the community's aesthetic and peace. Jake read it twice, his hands trembling not with fear but with a spark of defiance. He wasn't just going to fight back, was going to make a statement. The twist came from an unlikely source. Mrs. Evelyn Carter, the 80-year-old widow next door who'd lived in Willow Creek longer than anyone. Evelyn, with her sharp wit and encyclopedic knowledge of the HOA's bylaws, had been quietly documenting Karen's overreaches for years. Over coffee one morning, she slid a folder across Jake's kitchen table. "Look at this," she said, her eyes glinting. Inside were records of Karen's rule changes, many pushed through without proper votes, including the loud vehicle ban. "She's been bending the rules to suit her whims," Evelyn whispered. "And the city owns the streets. Not the HOA, she can't enforce parking bans on public roads." Jake's grin widened. He had an ally and a plan. The HOA meeting was set for a Thursday evening at the community center. A sterile building Karen had decorated with motivational posters about community harmony. Jake spent the week preparing, not with lawyers or letters, but with thunder. He polished the tank's olive green hull, checked its tracks, and ensured its engine roared with purpose. The night before the meeting, he called Evelyn. "You sure about this?" he asked. "Oh, honey," she replied. "I've been waiting for someone to knock Karen down a peg since '98. That was all Jake needed." The showdown began at dusk. As residents filed into the community center, Karen stood at the podium, her clipboard a shield, her voice droning about fines and compliance. Outside, the ground trembled. A low, guttural roar grew louder, rattling windows and drawing gasps. Heads turned as thunder rolled into view, its 33-ton frame grinding down the street, Jake at the helm in a leather jacket and aviators. He didn't park in the lot, that would have been too easy. Instead, he brought thunder to a halt right in front of the community center's glass doors, its turret casting a shadow over Karen's podium. The crowd erupted in whispers, some horrified, others stifling laughter. Karen's face drained of color, her clipboard trembling. Jake climbed down, boots hitting the pavement with a thud. He strode into the room, Evelyn at his side, her cane tapping defiantly. "Evening, folks," Jake said, his voice calm but carrying the weight of a man who'd had enough. "I hear we're talking about loud vehicles. Figured I'd bring mine to the discussion." Karen sputtered, her usual composure shattered. This is outrageous. That thing is a safety hazard," she shrieked, pointing at Thunder. Jake crossed his arms. "Funny, Karen. Your rule says excessively loud vehicles. Last I checked, my tank's on a public street, and your bylaws don't cover military vehicles. Care to explain?" The room fell silent. Evelyn stepped forward, her voice cutting through the tension. "I've got something to add. This loud vehicle ban? Never voted on properly. I've got the records to prove it." She held up her folder, pages fluttering like battle flags. A murmur rippled through the crowd as neighbors began to nod, their own grievances surfacing. The nurse stood up, recounting her truck fine. A father spoke about the bicycle violations. Then, in a twist no one saw coming, Karen's own vice president, Tom, a quiet accountant who'd always followed her lead, cleared his throat. "She's right," he said, glancing at Evelyn. "I've been complicit too long. Karen's been pushing rules without votes for years." Karen's empire crumbled in real time. Her face twisted in fury, then panic, as neighbors turned on her. "You can't do this," she screamed, slamming her clipboard down. But the room was no longer hers. Jake, still calm, leaned forward. "Here's the deal, Karen. You drop this rule or I park Thunder here every meeting until you do. And trust me, I've got the time." The crowd roared with approval, some clapping, others chanting, "Thunder! Thunder!" Karen stormed out, her heels clicking furiously, but not before Evelyn called after her. "Better check the bylaws, dear." In the weeks that followed, Willow Creek transformed. Karen resigned from the HOA board, her influence shattered. The loud vehicle ban was repealed in a proper vote, and Jake's tank became a neighborhood legend. He didn't park it on the street again, didn't need to. Thunder had done its job, not just as a machine but as a symbol of standing up to petty tyranny. Evelyn was elected to the board, her folder of evidence ensuring fairer governance. Jake, meanwhile, went back to his garage, content to tinker in peace, though he couldn't resist firing up Thunder one last time. The rumble a quiet reminder of what happens when you push too far. The Battle of Willow Creek left a lasting mark, a story of defiance and community triumph. But it also raises a question. When does an HOA's authority go too far, and when is it right to fight back? Share your thoughts. Where do you draw the line between community rules and personal freedom?